Hello and welcome to Childminding and Beyond with me, Beth.
And me, Sam.
This evening we are talking all about reflecting as a childminder, as an early years practitioner, and what we do to boost our self-care. So, Sam, what do you do in terms of reflecting in your practice, in your setting?
I think that's something we do as a given in childminding because I feel that I'm always constantly reflecting upon practice. So I will have a chat with Ryan at the end of each day and talk about how the day went, what could we do to improve things, what could we do to make things a bit better, what went well, what didn't go well, how the children were, because I think it's reflecting upon the setups you do, the activities you provide, as well as obviously the children's behaviour. So in regards to like I said, children's behaviour, oh, so and so didn't sleep very well, maybe we'll put them down a bit earlier tomorrow. How did they didn't sleep very well at home, right? Let's ask how they slept when they arrive in the morning. So it's not just about your practice, I feel it's about the children as well, and just making your days run a little bit smoother. So we will have a general plan of the week. It's not set in stone. It depends on the weather. I mean, yesterday we had planned to go for a scooter ride, but it hammered with rain. So we changed that in the morning and we went to the woods for muddy puddle jumping and hot chocolate. So we've got a rough plan at the beginning of the week, so we know which days we're going to the beach, which days we're going to the woods, which days we're going to the care home, and then we'll set up things based on the child interest, whether that be their next steps or what they're interested in when they come into the setting in the morning. we've I think, like I said, I don't know about you, Beth, but we reflect all throughout the day anyway.
Yeah,
And
and I think
you
it's just what we naturally do. I don't think we have to overthink it. We don't even have to think about doing it. I think we just naturally do it in the jobs that we do, and when we're planning and things, you just naturally think, oh wow, that activity didn't go very well, so I'll change it to do X, Y, and Z next time, or um like
sometimes I think you do it on the spot anyway as well. So sometimes you'd be like, right, okay, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. Let's set it up again tomorrow, but this is what I'll change.
yeah,
But sometimes if you set something up, so we might set up something in the garden, like muddy coffee, muddy hot cross buns, and they'll bring in other things, and you're like, right, okay, I can pop some counting in there. That's what they need to be working on. They're starting to count. Right, let me run and go get some stones, and we'll incorporate that. So I think that you are reflecting on you all the time anyway.
yeah.
So when you're setting things up through your day over the next few days, just be a bit mindful about, are you reflecting? Are you doing that automatically? Because it's a massive thing on EYFS practitioners, isn't it? Reflecting on your practice, what went well, what didn't go well, what could you change, what could you do differently? And it goes back to the three I's. So, like, you know, you, what have you set up? Why have you set up? What do you expect to get from it?
Yeah.
And have you got out from what you wanted to in the beginning? So I
And nine
think that
times out of ten, it doesn't go to plan. And what the intention of why you're doing something, the result is something completely different. But that's the nature of our job. We have to think on our feet. We have to move with the children's interests and abilities. And part of that is just reflecting on our practice and how we can move forward with it.
which sometimes I find, it is quite hard, but I think you've just got to do it without thinking about it. So, yeah, you might want them to, right, okay, I'm going to set up a muddy coffee play. I want them to, talk about more and lots, so maybe compare amounts. So you put all the coffee cups out and the mud and the water. That doesn't happen. They've added something else in. They're, oh, come to my shop, I'm going to make you coffee. How many do you want? How much is that? So instead of doing the amounts, they are focusing themselves on numbers. So
Yeah.
like you said, you've got to think on the spot and go, okay, right, okay, quick reflection, right,
What can I
forget the
add
amounts.
in
Yeah.
to progress this like learning opportunity even more?
Exactly, and that's the thing. You've got to reflect all the time because you want to scaffold their learning. And if they're not going the way that you anticipated or the way that you planned, you've got to follow them down their route and just be, quickly reflective and think, right, okay, quick, what can I add in to, make this a learning opportunity to scaffold their learning. Um, right, okay, I'm going to add in this, I'm going to use this words. You might not add in anything, you might just use different vocabulary to make them think or whatever. Yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee. Can I have a cup with lots of mud in? Or can I have two cups actually, one for me, one for Ryan? So it's just talk, thinking about how you're saying things, how you're wording it to get the information back that you want, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And
So I think you, sorry, carry on.
no, it's all right, go on.
So I think you do that on a general basis anyway. Um, we also reflect at the end of each day, just have a quick chat. Doesn't have to be massive, doesn't have to be, don't have to, I don't write it down. However, I know you do, Beth, so you can showcase that in a minute.
Yeah.
But, we will just have a quick chat sometimes, maybe in the car if we're going out in the evening for a walk or whenever, and just say, you know, how do you think today went? Yeah, I think the farm trip was really good. So and so enjoyed this, so and so enjoyed that. I really like that idea. Let's bring that back into the setting. Um, that didn't work as well, but I think they were really grumpy. They were tired. Maybe we'll put them to sleep a bit earlier and try again in the afternoon. So it's just reflecting on how you're going to, amend your practice or how you're going to do things differently. But you might just turn around and go, do you know what? That worked really well. They were really engaged on the beach. Yes, they didn't do what we wanted them to do, but they follow, they led their own learning, and actually we got this, that and the other from it, and we just put our trust in that, into the children. So there's lots of different ways that you can
Yeah.
reflect on your daily practice.
Yeah.
um
I think it's so important to be able to reflect, whether it's really informal, if it's just a bit of a chat with, if you've got an assistant, or even if it's just the thought process in your head, if you work on your own. It can just be really informal, but as long as you recognize that you are reflecting. And I think sometimes when people say, "Oh, have you reflected on this activity, or have you reflected on this week as a whole, or something?" I think sometimes it can come across quite a negative thing, because you think, "Oh, well, that didn't go well, so I need to do this." And it doesn't always have to be something negative. You can reflect and say, "That went really well. I really liked how I did this and this and this. Um, I'm going to try and take those positive points and incorporate it into something that maybe isn't going so well." Um,
Yeah, I really like that. And a couple of things I'm just picking up on what you've just said is, one, if you've got an assistant, it's really easy, isn't it? Just to have a quick 5 minute
yeah,
reflective chat. However, if you're on your own, it's harder to do that. So,
definitely.
one, you can either reflect with the children. So sometimes, in our previous podcast, we've said about we do baking at the end of the week, and we'll sit down and we'll reflect on our week. Sometimes we'll reflect on our day. So if we're sat around eating lunch, we'll go, guys, that was a really, I thought that was a really good morning in the care home. What did you enjoy this morning? What didn't you enjoy this morning? So it's just incorporating them on the reflection, because they are the ones involved and in charge of their own learning. So I think it's really also important to involve the children in that reflective
Definitely.
practice.
Listening to their voice and letting them have a voice in in your planning, in your reflection, so you can listen to them and move forward.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, if you're on your own and maybe your children are younger, so you can't use them in there, can't include them in that reflection, which I do think is really important as well, because it's just instilling that reflection process from a very young age, isn't it? It's like affirmations and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think as they go through school, they are expected to reflect on, what went well at school, what didn't go well, especially when they come to parents' evenings and things like that. So I think incorporating that and instilling it from a young age is a really, really key skill. But going back to, if you've got under twos and you can't reflect on, with them, and you don't work with somebody else, Beth had a really cool idea. You had a pad, didn't you?
Yeah, so I've got a time to reflect notepad, which I designed to help support childminders, but I actually find it really useful myself. So it's just got a selection of boxes, and I do this at the end of every week to influence my planning for the following week. So it's just got a few boxes. So I put a box on what went really well, what could have gone better, um, next time I could, and then at the bottom I could do with. So, for example, what went well? The children really enjoyed going out to the farm today, or this week. Blah 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 blah. What could have gone better? Um, I don't know. We wanted to go and see the cows, but they were one end of the farm, and then we had to flip. So next time I could make sure that we look at the map all together and plan out our route. Um, I could do with, and then I've put that on so you can try and think, do I need to reach out to um, someone else as to get a bit of training if you're unsure on a particular area, or I don't know. I
You
suppose
could use that box for a lot, couldn't you? Because
yeah,
once you're reflecting, so you said about going to the farm. One cow was one end. It wasn't really practical to go back because you had young ones. They'd already walked quite a way. So
yeah,
what resources do I need? Well, you need the map. You need to maybe look at the map before you go next time. Plan
yeah.
your route with the older
Plan
ones.
it a bit more. Yeah,
Look at a familiar route. They can then they make sure they've got maps so they can follow it, which then covers a lot of areas in maths. So you can incorporate that as well, but then it makes it easier for you ultimately because you can do it in a strategic route, so you
yeah,
get to see everything that they want to see, or maybe have a conversation with them before, what animals do you want to see,
yeah,
so I think that's I really like that box, and I tell you what I really like about that. It's a bit like how what they used to call a poo sandwich. So it's really good at turning around and going, right, okay, what reflecting, what went bad, what could I do better, blah blah blah. It's all the negatives. Whereas I think you've got on there as well, positive, negative, positive. So you've
yeah,
got a bit of a, like they say, a poo sandwich. So it doesn't make you feel a bit like, oh God, you know what? Everything I've reflected and it was just pretty rubbish. Oh my God, how am I going to do it better next time? And you're just pushing yourself further and further down. Whereas you've got on there what went well.
the largest box as what's gone really well, because
And
I
I
think
really like that.
yeah, you can focus so much, as I said, you can focus so much on it being something negative.
I
You
think you
need
do anyway, don't you?
yeah,
As a general rule.
yeah. You need to focus on what's gone well, because you need to celebrate those points and run with them. If it's going well, why not do it again? Why not take how you've done that activity into a different one? So yeah, I focused massively on what's gone well and only done a little box on what could have gone better, because I'm sure we can all list off a range of things that hasn't gone well, things that we can improve on. But I think it's really important to focus on what is going well, as well as recognizing those areas that you need to improve on or
Because
work.
ultimately it is a really hard job, and I think you're very as a childminder, you're very self-critical of yourself anyway. So by having that massive positive box, you're giving yourself and training yourself positive mental mindset, aren't you? Which I think is a massive thing, because we do work long hours, we have lots of children, lots of people couldn't do our jobs, so we're already burning on empty. Whereas if you carry on feeding the negative, then it's easier just to go under, isn't it? Whereas having a positive mindset, and you can use that also with the children, what went really well, what would you change, so it's you're instilling that with the children at a young age as well.
Yeah, I think as well, as much as the um, Instagram community for childminders is an amazing community to have, you can get bogged down in, oh well, my activities don't look like that, I don't do that, and you just think that everyone else is better than you. You have some social media accounts and you think, wow, I just want to be like them, I want to have a setting like them. But in reality, they are going to have shit days too. We only,
Do you know what, totally that, and it is really hard, and sometimes I get bogged down with that,
yeah, we've
and
had
it's really.
conversations before that we think today is not going to plan, or I've not got the energy levels to do all of the things that I've planned to do. but and remember that with any kind of social media, um, people share what they want to share, and 99% of the time, it's all the good things. You very rarely get, oh, today hasn't gone to plan, or this hasn't worked, this hasn't worked, this hasn't worked. Um,
No, you've got the pretty pictures, haven't you?
yeah,
Which is, you're putting enough, as a childminder, you're putting yourself under enough pressure as it is. And sometimes by looking at, I love Instagram, it's really inspiring, but sometimes you've got to take a step back and think, actually, doesn't always paint the pictures of real life. And
sure.
actually, if you've had a bad day or you're reflecting on your day and you're thinking, oh, hasn't really gone to plan, that's okay because
Yeah,
everybody else is like that. So maybe also find a buddy if you've got, I've made some really good friends on Instagram. Me and Beth or Bumblebee's childminding quite often, have a WhatsApp chat or something and just say, look, today's been really hard, hasn't gone to plan, this is what's happened. And it's really good sometimes to bat ideas and bat your reflection upon somebody else. If you have somebody else that you can do that, that's a really, really good way of reflecting as well, because they would be really good to, pick each other up.
yeah.
And
And
that
there's only so much you can moan at your partner, because they
they
just
don't
don't
get it.
they don't get it. You need someone else to vent to ask questions to.
That's
So
living that's doing the job that you're doing.
yeah, for sure, for
And
sure.
I
So
think that, carry
sorry.
on. No,
I
carry
was
on.
going to say, if anyone is struggling or feels like they're really on their own with that, then I'm going to speak on behalf of you as well, Sam. But our
Yeah.
inboxes are always open. If anyone wants to chat, wants a bit of a moan, wants a bit of advice, wants a bit of help with their reflection, if they just don't know where to start or anything like that, um, then by all means, just drop us both a message. We'll be
100%.
you.
Because I think, like I said, it's a really hard job. It's a really lonely job sometimes. Other people don't understand, I don't feel. Unless you've worked in early years, I don't think you 100% understand. So, yeah, don't suffer alone. And I think that feeds really nicely into the other thing that we were going to talk about is self-care, which I will hold my hands up and say, I'm really rubbish at that. And I think as a childminder, you are constantly giving out of your cup, aren't you? To parents, to children, to other people. You are constantly emptying your filled cup to help others. And it is a really tiring day. It is a really long hours. It's hard work. Um,
There's so
and
many
it's
balls to juggle.
there is. I mean, what are you? You're a chef, you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a counsellor, you're
First aider.
first, I think you're basically everything.
You wear a lot
Um,
of hats.
You do, and it's really, really hard to juggle, and you'll end up with like burnout. And I think I'm at the stage at the minute where I feel like I need a holiday. I've got 4 days off soon, and I definitely need that. And I think that it's so hard to easy to put yourself on the back burner, but you really have got to, make some time for you. Now, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big. I changed a few things. One, I tried to have a few nights off admin a week. Hasn't worked this week because I've got end of term reports to do. But especially now the clocks have gone back after the Easter holidays, I'm like, right, okay, there's going to be, I'm going to put one night aside, which I'm going to go out, meet a friend, go for a walk, go bird watching, go find nest, something for yourself. Also, I try to get into bed early enough so I can read. Might not be many pages. Sometimes I'll read quite a few chapters. Sometimes it might be like 3 pages. But I feel then in my head that I've done something for myself
Yeah,
because I
you
think
need
it's,
to be able to switch off a little bit. As
you
much as
do.
you can't fully switch off from this job. There's always a parent texting you. There's always like too many reports to do. There's always something you think, oh God, I need to do that. But you just have to make yourself switch off, even if it's just for 1 hour. Just just switch off and not think about it, because you will just reach burnout, and that is no good for anybody.
No. And I feel like I'm getting there at the minute. So hopefully we're going away for a long weekend. So it'll be really good. But it's just, yeah, go out for a walk, listen to some music, watch a film. I can't relax watching a film. Ryan thinks I'm weird because I need to be doing something else. My thing is either going out bird watching, reading a book, that called crafting, Lego, that kind of thing. Chatting to Beth, just things that are just like just for yourself. So
Yeah.
you've just got to find something that fills your cup. And it
Yeah.
hasn't got to be massive. You haven't got to cut down a day a week. You haven't got to do it for the whole weekend. Just little snippets. And when I started doing, I had some Lego for Christmas, start to do a little bit of that, even like half an hour a night with a hot chocolate and then go to bed and read a book. That just made me feel like, actually, do you know what? I've done something for myself today. And
Yeah.
that just puts you in a better mindset,
Yeah.
because otherwise you work, you go to bed, you're like, oh my God, what about me? I'm not doing anything about myself. And then you start to resent people because of that. So you need to just start with little changes.
Yeah, I was going to say little and often, even if it's just half an hour a day, and build up,
100%.
or like an hour every other day or something like that. I try and go to the gym about 4 times a week so I can switch off from
Yeah.
being a childminder and also being mummy. Um, as much as I mean, it's bloody hard to do both of them, but I find um, going to the gym and I'm Beth again. I'm not I'm not childminder Beth. I'm not mummy. I'm just Beth. Have a laugh with the girls, work out, and and then I come home and I feel refreshed again.
Mm.
Uh, or even if it's just like going to get my nails done or something like that, it's just time out for yourself. Um,
Having a long bath,
yeah,
doing some baking, something that you enjoy. So this week, after you've listened to this, write yourself a list of things that you enjoy. Forget work, just things. Go back to being you and writing down what you enjoy. Is it reading? Is it crafting? Is it going to the gym? Is it going for a walk? Is it having a bath? Is it, doing
just going
Lego?
for a drive and singing your heart out in your car for half an hour.
Yes. Listening
Just
to music, gardening, what is it? Go right back to basics and write that, and then think, right, how am I going to incorporate something small each day? Start 5 minutes, 10 minutes reading before you go to bed, or listening to music, 10 minutes after you finish work, or something like that. Can you go to the gym before you go to work? Can you go for a walk before you go to work? Just have a think of something little. Hasn't got to be massive, just little seeds, sow little seeds, little changes. Because if you're anything like me, I don't know about you, Beth, but I hate change.
yeah.
So just
I find it
little things, and
I quite
you'll be
enjoy
surprised.
if when I have to go and pick Florence up from her childminders or from my mum's or something, and I've got that 10 minutes in the car, I go the long way just so I've got an extra 5, 10 minutes. Oops, I got stuck in traffic. I just needed that time by myself to reflect on the day, to like just switch off a little off, just switch off a bit.
I mean, I'm lucky. So when we do the school runs, Ryan does it in the morning and I'll do it in the afternoon. And sometimes I have to take children with me to go to school to pick up the others. Sometimes I don't. It depends on who's here. It depends if Isabel's here. It depends if Ryan's here. And if I don't need to, I won't. So then I'll walk to school and I've got 10, 15 minutes on my own.
Hmm.
I mean, granted, I normally voice note my friends, namely Beth or Vicky or whatever, but I've got 10, 15 minutes just on my own.
Yeah,
And that's a really, I find that really, really good. And the same for Ryan. Sometimes he doesn't have to take children in the morning, sometimes he does, depends on ratios. But he's dropped the children to school, he's got 10, 15 minute walk back on his own. It's just little things. Go
yeah,
and hang out the washing in the morning. Yes, it's a job, but on your own. Just be mindful. Listen to the bird song around you. Listen to the sounds. All the birds are out singing at the minute. So just be a bit mindful. Take a few deep breaths when you're outside. Just little tiny things. It hasn't got to be massive. Don't think, oh my God, I can't fit all that. I can't fit all that in. I can't go and bake a cake or anything. No, but do you know what? You could sit there and plan what you're going to bake at the weekend when you have got more time.
yeah. I've also found it really useful to get up an hour earlier. I I mainly start work at 8 o'clock, sometimes a little bit before, and I was coming downstairs for 7:30, and I'd give myself 15 minutes to set everything up for the day. The majority of it was done before, but kind of like get breakfast sorted and things like that. And I was always in a rush and I always started on the back foot. My alarm now goes off at 6 a.m. and it is snoozed for 15 minutes, but
It
I
is
will,
hard, yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
I will normally get up about 6:15 and I will come down and I will have a cup of tea by myself and reflect on yesterday or think, right, what's the plan today? Or just to sit in silence or watch a crappy TV program for half an hour with a cup of tea when no one's going to interrupt me. And do you know what? I felt a hell of a lot better for it.
I bet you did.
Just to kind of prep my day in my head and think, right, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, and kind of make a start on those little jobs, and your day runs a lot smoother. And
You're not on the back burner, are you? You know, you started off on again a positive note, because it's really hard, and I'm guilty of this. So I'll come downstairs in the morning and I will moan, whether it to be Ryan or Beth. I'll be like, oh my God, it's another day. I've got to get this and this done. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Where actually I need to change my mindset and come
yeah,
down going, do you know what? It's a new day. We've got children. They are fun. We can go and have a good adventure. I'm not stuck in an office full of adults that I don't want to be in. I chose this job because I want to spend the time with children. Let's do it. And it is really hard, but you've almost got to train your brain, haven't you?
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's hard to do, and we're not saying tomorrow I want you to get up at 6 a.m. and bake a cake. It's as you said, Sam, it's small steps. Take 5-10 minutes here and there. um Even if you've got an assistant and the children are all settled, they're happy, they're engaged, you could just say, right, I'm taking 10 minutes, I'm having a cup of tea and I'm taking it in the garden, you've got this. And then vice versa, let your assistant go and have 10 minutes. And you find that you just need a mental reset sometimes.
Yes, you do.
um, and it just helps immensely
It
to.
has. I mean, I'm lucky I've got my daughter working with me this week. So we've had a couple of children off sick today. So we've had less children. And it means that I've been able to just stand in the kitchen and get a couple of reports done, which has saved me. But then I'm thinking, but then that will save me time tonight. And I've had been able to go and have a cup of tea, and then I've come back in and spent some really lovely one-to-one time with the children, because you've reset your mind and you've reset yourself, and you can go again, and you are a better person for it. You can't fill everyone else's cup when yours is empty.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So, what we want you to do this week, bit of homework, is get yourself a reflection pad. Write down what's gone really well. What could you do a little bit better? What can what resources or things do you need in place? And it's like when you're doing training as well, it's just reflecting on, what's good about that training, what can I implement in my setting to make it better. So get into the reflection mindset as well. Also, find something
Ofsted are
little.
quite hot as well on reflecting your
Yeah,
in
they are.
practice. We, I mean, we had Ofsted a couple of years ago now, but one of their questions was, how do you reflect? It doesn't have to be written down. A lot of people do it in their head, but you should be reflecting on your practice, noting what's gone well and what you might need to change next time. Do you need an extra bit of support? Are you not confident in a particular area? Have a look on a lot of your councils do some training, so do you need to do some extra training? Have a bit of a read up, like focus your development on that particular area, and go from there.
Definitely. So there's lots of pieces in the reflection puzzle, but it is, like I say, like you said, Beth, it's really good practice to, get into a reflective mindset and do that. And then, like I say, self-care. We want to know. So write in the comments, What little thing are you going to change? What little thing have you taken away from this podcast? Because hopefully that's what we're doing it, just to inspire, give people some tips, some ideas, and we learn from your ideas and that as well. So just pop in the comments one little thing that you're going to change. What are you going to do for yourself this week? What are you going to implement so you can have 5 or 10 minutes out to do something for yourself?
Yeah.
And remember, guys, have a brilliant bank holiday weekend, and make some time for yourself, because I certainly will be. We're off in the camper van for the weekend. I won't lie, I'll probably take some bits of work with me, but it'll be in a different place. We'll be doing lots of bird walking. And you're going camping, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going camping as well. But like you said, I think I will be taking reports with me. Um, but yeah, you've got this long weekend now to kind of take,
Implement some changes.
yeah, take a couple of days, have a bit of a reset, and think, right, from next week, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to support me, which then in turn supports the children. Um, because you cannot pour from an empty cup.
You can't.
And you need to look after yourself to be able to look after the kids.
100%.
Yes.
So thanks for listening. We shall be back hopefully with some guests very soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know, what are you going to change, and how are you going to, reflect on your practice, because we'd love to hear. Thanks for listening from me, Sam.
And me, Beth.
See you later.